Thank you, Madam President. I rise to give my no vote explanation on Senate Bill 897. I first want to say that I do appreciate the work that my colleague from the 16th District did put on this bill, and I do believe the substitute is a dramatic improvement to the way the bill was originally introduced. That being said, I still believe it is terrible policy. I cannot support legislation that ties a basic human right to access to health care, to employment. To quote the former Senate Budget Office Director and former State Representative Al Pasholka, I don't know how anyone can consider themselves pro-life and then take someone else's health insurance away from them. This bill operates on the assumption that those on Medicaid want to be reliant on the state, that they are choosing their current condition, that people choose to be poor. Colleagues, do you actually believe that people choose to live in communities with high unemployment, poor schools, dangerous neighborhoods, zero grocery stores, limited pathways to economic stability? Would you want that for your family? People don't choose to be poor. This bill is an insult to the working poor, and yes, they are working, who often work multiple jobs to not even come close to meeting ends meet. Frankly, colleagues, they work a lot harder than many of us in this chamber. And when given the opportunity to put those rules on yourselves, to require you to work as hard as you want them to work, the same amount of hours you expect them to work, you refuse to do so. I would also like to point out that it's not just the inner city that is covered by this bill. The problem is largely a rural one. The majority of those on Medicaid live in your districts, not mine. What do you say to the man in the Upper Peninsula who works 40 hours a week when jobs are plentiful in the summer, but is unable to find work in the off-season? Nothing in this bill protects them. In fact, in Iron County, Michigan, between July and January of this year, unemployment nearly doubled. It is not that man's fault that unemployment doubled. What magical job is he supposed to find when those jobs go away in the off-season? Why would you take his health care away just because of that? You know, we all enjoy the amenities at the Mackinac Policy Conference. We all get to hobnob with big, fancy people. Should the employees running that island lose their health insurance once the summer ends? Once those jobs go away? Many of these jobs that give people 30 hours a week simply do not exist in that off-season. I think it's cruel to punish people for that. This bill gives exemptions for those with substance abuse disorders, but not those with mental illness. It gives no exemption for those doing seasonal work, but gives exemptions for those that just got out of prison. So a guy who plays by the rules the whole life and happens to live in a county with seasonal employment has less access to health care than someone that committed a crime. It frankly makes no sense. You are picking winners and losers. You know, I think Republicans love to talk all the time about not picking winners and losers when it comes to business, but they're always fine doing it when it comes to the working poor. You're more acceptable and you get this, you don't. Basically, for the working poor, they're a giant social engineering experiment for Republicans. Okay, and frankly, somebody to attack. Okay, too many people are on food stamps. Let's say they are buying Skittles and lobster. Let's drug test them and see if that gets them out of poverty. Let's take away the right to govern themselves and see how that works. Let's make them buy their clothing from their clothing allowance in a thrift store. The idea that if we just find that secret sauce, if we just embarrass them enough, if we just take enough away from them, they will find some way to choose to stop being poor. All of this, a massive social engineering experiment, because you cannot look yourself in the mirror and say the simplest of truths, that you have failed. You created an economy where the average CEO makes 300 times more than the average worker, where people can find a job, but they can't find a job that actually pays their bills, where a study was done in Michigan and half the population is living in an unsustainable condition. 50% of the people in my county, 50% of the people in your districts cannot survive based on the incomes we have. For all the talk about how the economy has gotten better, the average wage, the median income is the exact same as it was a decade ago. Your policies have failed. They have not worked, and by just putting this into law is not going to make people choose not to be poor any longer. This legislature talks a lot about problems with big government. Yet this bill proposes to balloon government significantly through increased reporting, oversight, expenses, rather than spending millions of dollars to track the hours and work of everyone on or trying to get Medicaid, which again will not boost productivity or make jobs magically appear for people. And then you're going to subject them to random audits. That works so well in the unemployment agency, where 93% of the people were accused falsely. Colleagues, we should be investing in job training programs. You want people to find a job? Invest in job training, invest in child care, transportation, wraparound services. We should be investing in people. We need to equip people with the skills they need to qualify for good paying jobs that offer sustainable, predictable hours.
Senator Hertel, if you could keep your comments to the bill.
We need to make it easier for people to engage in healthy behaviors. And actually, you're darn right, none of this is in this bill. None of the things I'm talking about that we should have put in this bill are there. We need to make it easier for people to engage in healthy behaviors by ensuring their access to nutrition, education, and social supports aren't based entirely on what zip code they live in. In reality, it's not any of us in this chamber who are out there facing these struggles in a day in and day out, trying to find pathways to economic stability. That is not us. We don't live like that. It's easy for those that are the haves to tell the have-nots how they're supposed to live. We all have the immense privilege to be here to represent the best interests of our constituents. So how can we sit here and tell these people that we represent, who are trying and fighting to get by every day, that they're just not working hard enough? This bill is morally wrong, fiscally irresponsible, and willfully ignorant of the economic conditions that your policies have put this state in. I urge my colleagues to do the right thing and vote no on this bill, and I ask that my remarks be printed in the Journal.